In Texas, they're going hog wild over wild hogs. The feral animals are causing hundreds of millions of dollars of damage to crops across the state.
Basically, we have spent decades trying to stop an invasive species that is now officially outsmarting us at every turn. In Texas, the situation with wild boars has reached a breaking point where hundreds of pigs are removed every week, yet the population just keeps growing. Scientists have finally looked deep into the data to decode their movement patterns, and the results are truly disturbing for anyone living in rural America. This is a story about a human mistake that turned into a biological bulldozer with a brain that thinks as well as a young child. Farmers fighting ghost sounders. Texas ranchers are currently fighting a war that never seems to end. At 2 in the morning, the brush usually vibrates with life while the rest of the world is silent. In the thick cover of the dark, a different world is waking up, and it leaves the economy drained and the farmers very frustrated. They emerge from the shadows as a sounder, which is a highly organized family unit. Forget the friendly domestic pigs you see in storybooks. These are feral hogs with hundreds of pounds of muscle and razor-sharp tusks. The leader of the group is usually an old female pig who pauses at the tree line to check for danger. Her eyesight might be poor, but her nose acts like radar and her hearing is like sonar. She knows the farmer is sleeping, and she thinks the field belongs to her. Once she decides the area is safe, the herd moves in with a force that has earned them a scary nickname. People call them rototillers from hell because they do not just eat grass. They excavate the earth. They tear up the soil to get to the roots, ripping out crops and destroying expensive watering lines in the process. Within minutes, a beautiful field is completely ruined. But these animals are very jumpy. One snapped twig or a weird smell and they scatter back into the woods. They disappear as fast as they arrived, leaving the farmer to deal with a big mess. By morning, the field looks like a wasteland. This is a massive problem because Texas is home to over 2 million wild pigs. They live in almost every single county in the state. They destroy food crops, hurt other farm animals, and cost farmers $500 million every single year. This situation needs immediate attention. Traditional hunting just isn't working well enough. These animals are smart, they move at night, and they have babies much too quickly. To win this fight, farmers have to stop chasing the enemy and start outsmarting it. When you are going in a helicopter 3 to 4 times a week and removing an average of 20 to 30 pigs every time you go and the crop still gets completely destroyed, you know you have a real problem on your hands. It is a constant cycle of destruction that leaves people wondering how this even happened. Scientists have finally figured out where these monsters came from, and it is a human story. Humans creating super pigs. The origins of the feral hog problem go back to the 1500s when Spanish explorers first arrived. To these early travelers, pigs were seen as a mobile food supply that was easy to carry. Pigs were much tougher than cattle and could find their own food in the woods. These domestic pigs were brought along and often left behind or allowed to walk free by settlers in the 1700s. For many generations, these animals lived in the wild and built up a strong population of feral farm pigs that loved the Texas landscape. However, the creature that scares modern farmers today is very different from those early escapees. The big change started in the early 20th century because of a specific choice made by wealthy people. American sportsmen wanted a more exciting and exotic challenge to hunt. They looked at places like Germany and Russia and started bringing in pure wild boars. Men like Austin Corbin and Leroy Denman started private hunting clubs with high fences to keep these scary beasts inside. They wanted to keep them for sport, but nature is very hard to fence in. Because of bad weather, floods, and old fences breaking down, the enclosures failed. The Russian boars escaped into the wild and met the farm pigs that were already there. What happened next was a genetic mess that created a biological nightmare. The 2 different kinds of pigs started having babies together. This created a hybrid pig that had the best traits of both parents. From the farm pig, this new creature got a huge size and the ability to have lots of babies. From the wild boar, it got thick fur, sharp tusks, and a survival instinct that was sharpened by centuries of avoiding wolves and bears in Europe. Scientists call this hybrid vigor. The result is an animal with the brains to avoid traps, the anger to defend itself, and the ability to have babies faster than we can remove them. A single female can start breeding when she is only a few months old and have 2 large litters every single year. This big advantage was made even worse by human mistakes. In the 1980s, the population exploded. This was not just because pigs were moving on their own. It happened because some hunters illegally caught and moved hogs to new areas to create more places to hunt. What was supposed to be for fun ended up spreading an infestation everywhere. Texas became the center of this growth. Today, the state is home to a creature that is basically a super pig. It is an intelligent animal that can eat almost anything and live in any environment. The feral hog has changed from a farm animal into a threat to the whole continent. This new hybrid animal has powers that normal farm animals could never dream of having. Biological bulldozers with brains. They are machines made for staying alive. Their power in Texas is built on 3 main things: a special body, a fast breeding cycle, and a very high level of intelligence. To a normal person, the snout looks like a simple nose, but in reality it is a biological bulldozer. The tip is a flat, hairless disc filled with nerves. This pad lets the hog find roots and food up to 3 feet under the ground. It helps them because their eyesight is bad, acting like a sensitive probe in the dark. But being sensitive is backed up by pure power. Unlike other animals, a pig's nose is strengthened by a unique bone called the os rostrale. This bone acts like a heavy anchor, letting the animal push with huge force without getting hurt. When a hog roots, it isn't just sniffing. It is using a bone-reinforced shovel to flip over hard dirt. They can literally push through pastures and water lines like a tractor. So, here is the deal. If their nose makes them destructive, their breeding makes them impossible to stop. Experts call this the pig bomb. The idea is simple but scary. Feral hogs have babies at a fast rate that is higher than any predator can handle. A female can have babies as early as 3 months old. If the weather is nice and there is plenty of food, she can have 2 litters a year with up to 12 babies in each one. The math of this is very dark. Piglets survive at a high rate and the groups grow fast. For a pig population to just stay the same size, humans must remove over 70% of all the pigs every single year. If we remove anything less than that, the numbers just keep going up. This bomb is made even worse when people move them to new spots. But the hog's most dangerous weapon is actually its mind. These are very smart animals that are often called the smartest creatures on the planet. Studies show they think as well as a 3-year-old human child. They have great long-term memory and know exactly where they are. If a group finds a trap, they learn from it. If they find a good place for food, they remember it forever. Their intelligence is also social. They have been seen tricking other pigs to get food and even helping each other get out of traps. They can tell different humans apart just by looking at their faces. This deep thinking makes them very hard to hunt. They do not just run from danger. They plan for it. They learn the schedules of farmers, avoid places where they heard loud noises, and vanish into the woods if they think a human is nearby. This combination creates the perfect invader. The feral hog digs like a machine, spreads like a virus, and thinks like a general. Against an enemy like this, old ways of doing things were always going to fail. The more we try to stop them with force, the smarter the survivors become for the next fight. Evolution of a trap-shy enemy. Feral hogs are far more than a mere nuisance or a recurring headache for rural communities. They are ecosystem engineers whose primary output is systemic destruction. To understand the gravity of their presence is to understand a force that fundamentally rewrites the biological and physical scripts of the land. Their most notorious behavior, rooting, involves using their powerful snouts to flip massive quantities of soil in a relentless search for tubers, roots, and insects. This is not simple foraging. It is a mechanical destabilization of the earth. In sensitive regions like the Texas Hill Country, this habit leads to massive erosion and the literal collapse of riverbanks. What were once pristine, clear running streams are transformed into muddy, turbid, and toxic environments frequently contaminated with dangerous levels of bacteria. The ecological ripples of this destruction are profound. By outcompeting native white-tailed deer for food and preying directly upon the eggs of ground-nesting birds or endangered sea turtles, hogs effectively re-engineer the landscape into a place where only they are equipped to thrive. For the farmer and the multi-generational landowner, the hog invasion carries a profound mental weight that is rarely captured in economic reports. There is a specific visceral trauma in waking up to find a family legacy. Fields tended for decades, uprooted and decimated in a single night. This creates a sense of helplessness that transcends mere financial loss. It is an assault on one's sense of stewardship. Historically, the primary response to this invasion was traditional hunting. However, modern ecology and population dynamics have revealed that traditional hunting is often a fake victory. While a hunter may feel a sense of accomplishment after taking down a large boar, the mathematical reality is grim. To merely stabilize a feral hog population, not even reduce it but simply keep it from growing, over 70% of the total herd must be removed annually. Traditional hunting rarely, if ever, reaches this threshold. Worse still, it educates the survivors. When a hunter takes out only a fraction of a sounder, a social group of hogs, the remaining members undergo a rapid behavioral shift. They learn to associate the silhouette of a human, the scent of a truck, and the sound of a closing door with immediate danger. This high level of intelligence and adaptability led to the eventual failure of the popularized pork chopper era. Aerial removal from helicopters was once hailed as the silver bullet for hog control. In practice, however, the loud, intrusive approach often proved counterproductive. The noise of the rotors frequently scattered sounders into dense brush or onto neighboring properties where they could not be pursued. This effectively turned one large, manageable problem into several smaller, fragmented ones. The survivors of these encounters become hyper-aware and strictly nocturnal. They develop a trap-shy nature that makes traditional box traps, the mainstay of control for a century, largely useless. These pigs refuse to step over metal bars or enter confined spaces with a single entry point. The social structure of the sounder further complicates things. The alpha female, often the oldest and wisest of the group, possesses a memory that spans years. She can sense the subtle wrongness of a trap and will lead her entire family away at the slightest suspicion. This leaves the farmer with nothing but a genius generation of pigs, animals that have been conditioned by failed human intervention to be even harder to catch. Achieving true victory requires a shift in philosophy. The goal must be 100% removal of the sounder. Any survivors represent a failure as they carry the education of the encounter to the next generation. This necessity has moved the battlefield toward the suspended corral trap. This high-tech, large-diameter ring hangs in the air, completely removing the visual cues of a traditional cage or confined box. Integrated with high-definition 5G cameras and motion sensors, it allows landowners to monitor the sounder's activity in real time from their smartphones. The strategy is one of extreme patience by conditioning the pigs, allowing them to feed under the suspended ring for days or even weeks without interference. The farmer builds a false sense of security. The trap is only triggered when the digital feed confirms that every single member of the sounder, including the wary alpha female, is within the perimeter. With the press of a button on a remote interface, the gate drops instantly. Do you think high-tech traps are enough to stop the pig bomb from exploding across America? Let us know your thoughts below and make sure to like and subscribe for more.